Yes. Your company come up too? Yeah, just tuned in. Which one? Alan said it was lovely. Yes.
The good weather probably, right?
Yeah, with
Yeah.
rain initially, but then pretty much the whole week of New Year's was really
Clear
nice.
skies, yeah.
Big surf. Big surf.
Mhm. I saw like huge waves that they had in like Half Moon Bay, so I don't know, it's probably the same where you
Yeah,
might
we had a
be.
lot. We had a lot of people. I sit next to Alan at Gregory.
All right. Like to call to order the Pleasant Hill Recreation and Park District Board of Directors regular meeting, January 9th, 2025. It is 7 p.m. And for those that are able, why don't we just jump to agenda item number 2 and join me in the pledge of allegiance. The first one of the year.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move to agenda item number 3, public comment. This item on the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board that is not on the agenda. There will be ample opportunity for the public to comment on other agenda items at the time they are discussed. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Michelle, do you have any comment?
We do not have any public comment.
We'll go ahead and close agenda item number 3 and move to agenda item number 4 and start with 4.1, report from our ex officio teen council representative, Paula Nicolette. Well,
Hi, everyone, thank you. Teen Council is planning their Valentine's Day dance, which is gonna be on Friday, February 7th, and we have posted the flyer on our Instagram. And we're hoping that we can set up a table at College Park during lunch, so we can sell more tickets that way. And then we're also planning to do Battle of the Bands, but our original date has been pushed back, so we don't exactly know when we're gonna have that event yet. And then College Park Choir has their Pleasant Hill Showcase on February 19th, which is their yearly showcase where they have all the different elementary schools and middle schools come sing at our school and we all sing together. And then they also have their Disney and Dessert Show on Friday, March 7th. Band has their CMEA Jazz Festival on January 24th. They also have their Contra Costa County Honor Band concert on February 1st. And then Drama has their one act theater festival January 29th through January 31st. Our girls basketball team played Clayton Valley on Wednesday, but unfortunately they did not win. Their next game is tomorrow at 7 p.m. at Benicia. Boys basketball played Clayton Valley on Wednesday as well and unfortunately lost as well. They play Benicia tomorrow night at 7:30 and they're also hosting a halftime free throw tournament where there's gonna be a prize of an In-N-Out or Dutch Bros gift card, and so there's like flyers hung up around all over the school for people to like sign up to participate in the competition. And then boys wrestling has a tournament this weekend at Granada High School, and girls wrestling has a 2-day tournament in Napa. Girls soccer played Dublin on Tuesday with a close match, but unfortunately also did not win. Saturday they play at California High School at 11 a.m. And then boys soccer played Concord on Tuesday, and it was another close match, but unfortunately they lost as well. They play Ignacio Valley tonight. It just started at 7 p.m. They also play Irvington this Saturday at home at 3 p.m. And then tryouts for winter sports will be starting the second week of, or for spring sports will be starting the second week of February.
Nice.
thank you for your report. Any
Of course.
questions from the board?
Well, I had seen a recent communication from the Mount Diablo Unified School District saying that they reached a settlement regarding Title IX sports, specifically like naming
Yeah.
College Park. It looks like there's gonna be some better improvements and oversight in regards to, you know, the sports programs
Mhm.
there, so maybe some changes and stuff that are forthcoming, yeah.
Hopefully.
Any other comments? Any public comments on them? Right, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lenny.
We'll go ahead and move to agenda item 4.2, report from the general manager.
Thank you, Chair Tran, members of the board. I included a brief written report. We're just getting back from the holidays, so kind of light this time, but I do have a couple of things I wanted to add that have come up since the publishing of the report. One, you all most likely received today your Form 700 information from the county, so just a reminder that that is due to be filled out by April 1st, 2025. I also purchased items for the basket for the board and the raffle for the all-employee appreciation tomorrow. And so there's information for you on that. The theme is fun in the sun. And so have a fun basket around playing outside, and so it should be well received by the members of the staff. So I'm excited about that. And then I just wanted to let you know the city has received a proposal for a special event that is a night market that is to be held starting in April at the Florida Core parking lot. So over next to Chilpin Single Park, and they're interested in using Chilpin Single Park for a couple of their kids' activities. So I'm working with the city on permitting and all of the things that need to happen for that to happen. It would be held twice a month on Fridays. So just kind of as an FYI. I'll have more information once it's finalized, but that has just come to my attention. And so in case you hear about that, I have been made aware. We are working with the city and the vendor to make sure that the district gets the insurance and all the other things that we need for that to happen. So it is exciting that something might be happening on that side of town. So and not just around here at City Hall. So so that's exciting. And as you all know, the employee appreciation event is tomorrow, and I believe all of you have RSVP'd to attend. So we're excited that the board will be able to join us tomorrow. Unfortunately, Director Glover is feeling ill right now, so I'm not sure if he'll be able to join us tomorrow. But he does have an excused absence today because he is ill. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments.
Any questions from you?
Just a comment, I had the opportunity to try the new chairs over at the senior center. They're very comfy. So a nice improvement there. Yeah.
What event took you? What?
Oh, I was attending a meeting for the Pleasant Hill Community
Nice.
Foundation. And so, we were sitting there around the game room and I was like, these are really nice. The chairs. Yeah. So.
Any other questions or even comments? I'll just have two comments. I was interested in the senior services where one of the instructors had been teaching in Danville, was a Pleasant Hill resident. And that's not sort of the only time. My daughter has taken lots of courses in Danville and San Ramon and all different places. And I think it was like 3 out of the 4 courses, all the instructors were from Pleasant Hill. And every single time I say, why aren't you teaching at Pleasant Hill? And I have to drive all the way to San Ramon or Danville to get to your class. So hopefully more instructors sort of see the value of teaching here in the city they live in. So that's great that they're doing that. And then I actually just received an email as well for the night Mark I was going to forward to you. The vendor wants to come to one of our meetings that I talked to you about just to inform the board what they're doing. And so I thought that would be a good opportunity just to have that person to come by and then just discuss. I think he wanted to talk about some of the diversity activities or diverse activities that he wants to bring to that part of town. So it's kind of an interesting. So I'll forward you that email he reached out to me as well too. And then I guess that's it for me. Any other public comments? Right. So we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 4.3. Takes a second for diligent to work on. These are the board committee assignments for 2025. So I will take this one. I had to sort of step back when I was putting this list because I actually probably put together 20 lists. I wasn't quite sure how to go about doing this. So I want to thank the board members for reaching out or reaching back to me to express their thoughts in and around some of the goals and what their preferences are. I really want to make 2025 a successful year. So I would try to be very intentional about committee assignments as best as I could, while also trying to incorporate as many preferences as I could. One of the things that I saw in terms of the preferences is that there was a almost universal recognition that with the defeat of Measure S, the district really needed to pivot in a different direction because we're not going to have the funds that we want to do or to create all of the infrastructure and the spaces that we wanted to do. That may be for something else in the future, but for now we do not have that. And so I guess everybody was on the same page with that. And so there was a universal recognition that the two committees' budget and land and facilities would be sort of key to that pivot. The one thing though that I think that we're sort of missing in this, and I sort of said in my comments when we did the transition for the different roles, was that Measure S to me actually highlighted a much deeper thing, not just the spaces and places we wanted to create with money, but that the spaces themselves don't create communities, they support communities, and that really the two committees that are important to really forming that foundation in order to support the spaces and places, so it's the personnel and the programs committee. You know, these are the committees that overlook, you know, how do we bring on great people and how do we support great programs to create communities. And when people feel like they're part of a community, then they're more likely to support things like $75 million bond to create a space, right? Because they feel like it's something that belongs to them. And so in my mind, actually, all four communities were really important, although I think everybody wanted kind of the focus on the two main ones. And so I tried to pair people in certain ways to make sure that all four committees were particularly active this year, because I think this year will have to set us up for multiple years down the road to try to figure out how do we not only build the infrastructure that we need to build, but actually create the programs that would fill those spaces in the future as well too. So I wanted to say that, I know it's a long one, but I wanted to say that just so that everybody understood how I came to this grouping of folks. So I'll stop there because I'll probably talk too much anyways. So for this year, for the committee assignments, and I'll just go in order here for budget and finance, I have assigned Director Bernardo as chair to work with Director Vincent for that subcommittee. I think hopefully you guys were okay with accepting that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I think it was very important that you guys were prepared for that particular one. For personnel, I've assigned Vice Chair Director Wurst, for chairing that one to work with Secretary Bernardo in the personnel committee, if that's okay with the two of you. Okay. For program committee, I assigned Director Vincent to chair and to work with Director Glover for the program committee. He's not here, but I'm assuming he will accept this role too. For land and facilities, I've assigned Director Vice Chair Wurst to chair the land and facilities, and I will work with the Vice Chair Wurst in the land and facilities. And of course, for the district and city liaison, it will be myself and Vice Chair Wurst as well. We do have an agenda item later for an ad hoc committee, which we'll talk about as well too. I do have a recommendation, although because it's a different agenda item, we'll talk about sort of that structure. But I will save that recommendation for later. So that's my picks for the subcommittees for this year. I certainly hope that if all these committees are active this year and that we set ourselves for success in 2025. Thoughts, questions, comments?
No, but that will be part of a roster that you'll be
Yep,
circulating, so
yep,
we'll
yeah.
that will.
I'll update the roster and send out that, so you'll remember. I always have to refer back to the roster every time, it changes every year, so.
Yeah, so I put that in one of our notebooks, and so you have access to that. We're trying new ways to communicate and stuff. I have all these nice little spreadsheets and notebooks now in there, so I'll share that with Michelle. Excellent. Any public comment on this item? Okay, well, that was quick. We'll go on to agenda item number 5 then, the consent calendar. Of course, the consent calendar is considered to be routine by the board and will be enacted by one motion. I will entertain a motion to move the consent calendar.
Move the consent calendar.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Aye.
One second. Okay. Of course, the second. Thank you. All those in favor of moving the consent calendar?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes 4-0. Move on to agenda item 6.1, discussion regarding potential topics for the January 30th, 2024 board planning retreat. I'll hand this over to General Manager.
Great. So as the board is aware, we have an annual board planning retreat, and we've set the date for January 30th. Tonight is an opportunity for board members to discuss items that they would like considered for that agenda. To just kind of kick it off, we will be doing a Measure S debrief and talking about potential funding. We are also on that is talking about special events, special event calendar, the future special events, and just kind of our philosophy behind that and where we're going with that. So those are the two main items that are on the agenda. Other items that staff has considered that we haven't put on there is a discussion about some of our maybe underutilized facility or properties, like the schoolhouse, Winslow Center. I'm not sure if we were ready to have those conversations, but that is something that we've also is kind of on the, do we discuss that at the planning retreat or later? But tonight is just an opportunity for the board to put additional options to staff, and so that I can work with Chair Tran to come up with a robust agenda for our January 30th meeting. So in addition to the two items that we definitely have on the agenda.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions, thoughts, and comments from the board. Yes.
I'm curious to know if there's been any thought about how long each of these subjects will be covered. I mean, they're major subjects, and certainly, for example, the pivot that you were referring to should be one of them. But I want to make sure that we have a decent amount of time to discuss it.
Well, I think what I'd like tonight is just kind of the topics you would like discussed, and then Chair Tran and I can talk about the timing on each of those. But some of them we could then move to agenda items for future meetings, right? And all of these discussions don't have to happen at the board retreat. So things that the board would like discussed at a policy level for future board meetings would be helpful as well. So but I think we haven't finalized exactly how much those are going to be until we know kind of what the topics are going to be. So
Well, I guess my point is, we could come up with 10 topics, but is that really a good use of our time at the retreat, as opposed to being able to, maybe 4 or 5 topics in depth? And so the latter would be sort of my preference.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important ones, 4 or 5 would. I'm not looking for an abundance of topics, but kind of what top 3 or 4 that rise to the top, I think would be what we'd be looking for, some consensus around that from the board.
Yes.
I agree with Secretary Bonanno. We need to do a deep dive on some of these, and there just aren't enough hours in that one day. But some of the topics that we may not know until we get there on that day, whether we start to have a discussion on something that may be on there, and it may turn out that we can have a brief discussion, but then push it off to the next board meeting, 2 board meetings away. There's, for instance, I had a note on it's what staffing needs. I just kind of had that in my mind after I sent the note to you, Chair Tran. But staffing needs for the year, do we need to do anything differently? That may not be, that's just more of a informational thing, I think, but that's something I'd like to hear about at some point. And then the other is the status of the senior center activities, mainly the advisory committee. What are they doing? I know they have a lot of activities and their classes are going really well, but just the structure of what's happening with the senior center, and we made the switch from the senior club to the advisory committee, and how is that working? Just kind of a status update for that. But that can also be another meeting. That's all I've got.
Well, I think maybe I just add in there as well, just to give you maybe some context. So as Michelle was saying, I think we're looking for probably, actually in my mind, probably like 4 or so sort of major topics. So we can really deep dive into it. That'll give, I don't know, whatever, hour and a half, maybe close to 2, depending on the topic. And then we can sort of move the other ideas to other parts of the agenda. So what I've done with Michelle is that we've mapped out the entire year with all the agendas. And so part of the reason I was asking all of you some of the ideas beforehand and also here is that as ideas come in, if we don't put them in the planning retreat, we can sort of map it out throughout the entire year. And so things like staffing needs, I think, is an important component. Although I do want the subcommittee on personnel to sort of play with that a little bit, because like I said, I think personnel and program need to be active this year because we really need to ensure that we have the great, the great people that we need to run the great programs that we know we have. So that could be an important component, and then sort of reporting out to the full board after they wrestle with that a little bit. So I think there's opportunity for topics to be at the planning retreat, but also opportunity throughout the whole year, sort of slot these into different ways so that we can actually discuss each of those as well too. So I don't think we need to do all 10 topics,
Right,
but I think we, I think we.
No, my point was I did not want to do 10
No, so,
topics.
no,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%, but I wanted to also just reassure you as well too that ideas generated tonight will simply be dropped off because they didn't fit into the planning retreat umbrella. That we're going to take all of that information and try to then spread it out through the year so that there's different points at the different points in the time of year that we can address those as well.
The special events topic, I think, will also
Yeah,
spread
we'll
out to
filter out,
kind of
yeah.
discussion
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great topic.
I have a few, I mean, I have a list of topics that I wanted to cover, but I think, to your point, that, some of these might be best, discussed during a subcommittee meeting or throughout the year, and they sort of dovetail with some of the other general topics that we'll be discussing. I mean, one was, the underused facilities. I think, that would be helpful to talk about how to address the schoolhouse property, something that I would like to see is not kicking that can down the road further if we can avoid it, find out how we can address that property in the future. So, getting into some detail about that as part of the planning summit. I had, wanted to, debrief on Measure S, obviously, and some of the lessons learned, things that we might be able to do a little bit better if we are to look to maybe going forward with some sort of, a bond measure. Perhaps looking at using our reserve fund capability for dedicating, funds for a special election if need be. So we don't have to face that same decision again of like, should we go, should we not? How much is it going to cost? Maybe we've already made that decision for future boards and be able to alleviate some of that, headache that we had over and consternation over, the funding for a special election if needed. I also had mentioned before, I wanted to kind of revisit the master plan, the security master plan. Specifically, we had received the security master plan and there were some general, recommendations, but nothing really specific and tangible. I think partly because we maybe haven't spent a little bit of time up front to understand our, objectives and priorities of what we're looking to do with it. So if we're a little bit more clear in how we want that, to take shape, maybe we can then further refine that security master plan and make some actionable things come from that. So if there is an opportunity, and it may be that is delegated to a subcommittee level, maybe there's not time to address it during the planning retreat, but that's something I'd like to revisit in this year, especially in light of, some of the recent break-in and stuff like that. It seems like it goes out of sight, out of mind for a while since there's no graffiti in the park. It's like, okay, things are okay, and then starts to crop up again. So and then again, trying to look at our events calendar and some of the events that we're planning, the multicultural event that is also in keeping with our DEI principles, something that we can do that demonstrates to the community how we're, visibly making that a part of our culture. So I think that might be, part of that conversation as well anyway. But those are some of the ideas that I had. So maybe those are topics that, come up as part of the planning summit or, can be addressed throughout the year.
I'm just gonna add on, so I think there's universal agreement about a debrief on Measure S. I think that's gonna be on the topic. I may add into there, because we've now had two failed attempts at measures, that there should be even a tie into Measure A as well too, and other lessons or common lessons that we could learn from both, because now we have examples from two different elections. And so not only just a deep dive into Measure S, but even a tie back to Measure A and what lessons can we take out of those two? Because you should never let failures not give you the opportunity to learn, right? And so we have two, so we have plenty of fodder to learn from, hopefully. And so based on that, hopefully we'll have a successful something else in the future for a future board or whatever it may be. So I would suggest that just to like expand the discussion a little bit more for the Measure S debrief. I think we're also in agreement that there's some sort of the topic in and around special events. So calendaring, what is the calendar look like for events, so that all the board members understand what staff are thinking about in terms of what events are important for the district to put on, but also sort of in the context of if we're trying to be more inclusive and really sort of ensure that our DEI strategic plan is implemented, what kinds of multicultural events or diverse events are we thinking about? I think that's very appropriate as well too, and that may not just be for the planning retreat. That's probably going to spill over into multiple agenda items. So I think that definitely is in there. In terms of maybe a third topic, and I don't know if I necessarily have that in my mind fully formulated, but it's kind of going back to the pivots of what are we going to do if we don't have funds? Can we have big infrastructure needs that we need? So there's the pool, there's the library park, and there's the underutilized one for the city, is Winslow and Schoolhouse, And so I think there's some kind of topic in and around, if we don't have $75 million sitting around and we have these huge infrastructure needs, what are we going to do? I think that's an appropriate thing to at least start to have a conversation about, because we just can't sit around. I think there's an expectation that even if we don't have the funds, we do something to address these things, right? They're just sitting there, and then more, there's a pipe here, I didn't get to the three facilities built. And then, but since I didn't get, no other facilities have been touched since then. And so I think there's some sort of topic in and around that. I think it's appropriate. Maybe I go for Michelle kind of think about how to frame that a little bit. So I think that's an appropriate at least start. That's three.
Yeah, I think that is looking.
Yeah.
To me, that's a very deep conversation.
It's going to be. I think it's just going to be a start. It's probably going to spill over, but at least we should have a dedicated time to really think that through. But I work with Michelle to kind of frame it in a way where we can have that kind of conversation. So that's three. For the security master plan, just to let you know, we have agendized that in our year-long agenda.
Okay.
So I think we can
cover that.
Yeah, we can cover that. I was hoping for the planning retreat to be really sort of strategy. In a sense, how do we approach sort of the entire year? And so those are some of the big topics.
I mean, we could also include we could include it at last, depending, because we can also move it to, then we could just kind of talk about the DEIB initiatives and the Play for All and, all of that. I have it calendared as well to kind of give an update, but, if we wanted to look at that, we can talk a little bit about kind of that policy, Play for All policy, and what the implementation has looked like, and have a conversation around that, but I think the three conversations you're having will take up most of your day.
9 to 3, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, three,
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
Measure
yeah.
S,
Yeah.
you know, cause it'll be debrief, but it'll also be looking at options for future and, you know, kind of that sort of thing, and then special events, and then, you know, the pivot funding, what our options are, like, those are gonna be some meaty, heavy topics.
And we also have our sort of year-end review and
Yeah,
other things,
like
so, yeah,
accomplishments, yeah.
so that'll fill in, okay, so why don't we keep it at 3 and then just have sort of backup topic,
Yeah.
if we happen to enter it, I don't think we will, but we can have some backup.
I'll have to agendize that, so you and I can talk.
Yeah, no, we'll have it in
Yeah.
there, but you know,
Yeah.
whether we get to them or not, you know,
Yeah.
they can use for other time, okay. Any other
But
thoughts?
you also need time to plan. if
Yeah, we
you
need time
have
to plan,
these
yeah,
topics.
yeah, so, yeah, so Chair Tran and I will kind of like, you know, get the 3, maybe 4 topics total, and then, yeah, we need to plan, get presentations together.
I
Do
think
written
we're in good
reports.
hands.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah. Any other ideas, thoughts? I'm taking notes. Yes.
Just one comment, and I think this is gonna happen, but if you do the debrief, to me, that segues right into the pivot.
Yeah, we can certainly
So-
do that.
That's all I had on that. And then the special events can come after, or do that first.
But we'll have a, most likely a consultant,
Right.
there for, so we'll probably do that one first. And then we'll also most likely have, our general counsel there as well for some of the pivot conversations, so we'll probably do those first.
Good.
Sounds good. Okay. All right, any public comment?
No.
So let's, the one thing I don't like about diligence is that you can't scroll with your finger,
I know.
which is disappointing. Yeah, let's go ahead and move to action item 6.2, appoint board ad hoc committee to review and make recommendations for revisions to board policy 3000, which are our financial policies prior to the end of April 2025. And I'll give this up to you, Manager Mason.
Yes, so last year we had appointed an ad hoc committee to review 2000s. We actually did not do that. We hoped to have that done in June. A couple of things happened. I was in and out of the office, as well as the city is taking up some revisions to their zoning ordinance, and so that will affect that policy. So we've decided to put that on hold. But there has been quite a bit of interest at the board level on the financial policy, specifically around the reserve policy, which is in that. And so when Chair Tran asked about having a conversation about a reserve fund, I said, well, that's in your financial policies, so let's review the financial policies and put that in that context. So my recommendation is that the board appoint an ad hoc committee for a limited duration prior to the end of April 2025 to come back with recommendations. You can change the timeline if you think that's too quick, but I wanted to kind of keep us on track to move that forward. But that is my recommendation, that the board consider that.
How many sections are there? I mean, are we talking about 100 sections or?
No, it's not
just
100.
30?
In the financial?
Yeah, it's not, 3000 is fairly significant, but there's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's 10. And includes the investment policy, which has recently been updated, records retention, credit card. Some of them are, you know, pretty straightforward, you know, fraud, that sort of thing. But yeah, there's like 10 of them. It's not super, a lot of it's gonna be reducing some of the word verbiage and getting rid of a whole, because it's very specific, so. But I think it can be done. But we could push it out. I was trying to get it done before the budget was adopted, you know, coming around, like, you know, because this also talks about the budget process and timelines in regards to that, so.
Is the plan to amend what we have, or to scrap it and have OSA or someone provide a different version?
I think is to, well, we have to start with amending this, but but the kind of what we've done before is kind of strike out the things that are unnecessary. And make clean it up and make sure that we're in compliance with state law, similar to what we've done with all the other ones, so,
Will we have a template though that will tell us if there's things that should be in there that aren't?
yes. Yeah. Yes, so, but yeah, so that is my recommendation, is the 3,000s, is the next one we tackle.
Any other questions?
Oh, when the city would be, finalizing their, zoning update?
Well, they've had an interim conversation, so sometime I'm told by the city manager, hopefully by mid-year. Is when they would do that. But then, once that happens, then we could then look at
Do
our
it ad
land,
hoc.
then we could do the next ad hoc committee.
Okay,
But I don't think we wanna change our policies until
No.
after
No,
they
I was
have
just curious.
completed that.
Yeah.
Cause that will have a major effect on how we interact with them.
Would you like to nominate yourself to chair this? I
Um,
think you'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly willing, if you're willing. I mean, we've done this before. If we're both on the Budget and Finance Committee, is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it makes sense unless somebody else wants to be redlining policy.
no, I was just curious, the same thing, I thought perhaps, since you guys were both serving on the Budget and Finance Committee, there's sort of a natural tie-in with some of those,
The next committee, the next policy review though, I think is
I might-
mostly in your wheelhouse.
Sure,
Is
After that,
Yeah,
yeah.
is that something that you'd like to be part of this sort of?
Yeah,
kind of
'cause I-
figure out, how a policy review goes.
Yeah, I would, and I had an interest in this particular, the financial one from the perspective of the reserve fund, but. I don't necessarily need to participate in the updating of the policy, I think you guys would be able to handle that, but I'm just interested in that aspect of it. But yeah, I don't mind doing the land use one, so if we have another ad hoc for that particular policy later in the
We
year.
might have time and space for two
Two.
ad hoc
Yeah.
committees. I actually put your names first, and then I'm gonna throw this out and it's unfortunate that Director Glover is not here, but I also thought about Director Glover and Director Benson as well for this particular one. Simply because it made sense that assign both of you to Budget and Finance, and then this particular ad hoc is focused on sort of the financial components of it. I want for some reason I wanted a third person in there just to have. But I kind of went back and forth a lot, and so I kind of just want to hear what people had said first. But I can go either way. So if you two feel strongly that you guys want to tackle that, I think I'm okay with that. 'Cause that's the first pairing that I had. I was going to ask Director Glover if he would be interested or not. I don't know. I'm not sure if he would be. I think the times that I worked with him and others sort of like redoing the personnel book and other types of things. He's great on big ideas, but I think sort of the outline, line by line stuff, I'm not quite sure he's into that. But I like the way he thinks in terms of just sort of 30,000 foot level, which in terms of things like financial reserves and stuff, I thought could bring a different viewpoint as well, rather than just sort of line by line. And that's the only reason why I kind of went back and forth between getting a third person in there, but I'm okay with, since he can't defend himself right now. That maybe the groupings could be, maybe you two start with the finance because it's already budget finance, and then maybe,
Glover.
Director Glover, and in the future, should we get to that point, might be a good pairing for that.
Sure,
With
that works for me. Keep me in reserve.
I went back and forth, so I was trying to be very thoughtful about that, but, okay. We'll.
We need a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, so that.
I'll move, I nominate myself to chair the ad hoc committee with Secretary Bernardo as being on that ad hoc committee for the, to focus on, section, whatever it is, 3,000.
1,000.
Prior to the end of
prior to the end of, what is it? April 2025. Not 2020.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's a 4-0. All right, thank you. Thank you for stepping up for doing that. Two important jobs.
Michelle, do you see, like within the next 2 weeks, that we can have the template?
So I have a meeting with OSA on Tuesday, and so we'll discuss so I'm hoping like right at the beginning of February, we'd get you guys kind of the first initial drafts to review, so we'll get rid of all this unnecessary stuff, yeah.
Figured out.
Then you got February, then we have February, March, so
Yeah.
Awesome.
February, March, April.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to agenda item 7, verbal report from committee chair and opportunity to set meeting dates. I don't think there are any right now, right?
Not any, but now that I have the list, we will definitely get some on the books.
Yeah, I'd like to set a budget committee meeting after the retreat, but let's
Yeah.
see kind of how the retreat,
Okay.
you know, begins to fashion itself.
Yeah.
Not so much a go forward budget look, but a today look, you know, look at it.
All right, any other comments? We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 8, board announcements and requests to staff. And we will start with Director Vincent.
Oh, get to be first. I don't have anything in particular. I thought I would just share. We participated, it was a Rotary function, and we did the Christmas for All turkey carving. It was on the 24th, so we went down to Wilmot Catering in Martinez, and Rotary's been a part of this for a long time, so I bring the electric knife and Alan does the carrying and all other stuff. But there were, I'm trying to think, I was right next to Rick Flyer, and we each did 6 turkeys. But Rick brings his son-in-law and another gentleman who they've got it down. They're just pros at it, and I think they probably did 13 to 15 each in the time that he and I did 6 each. But it was, you know, it's 2 to 3 hours. It was a great event, just kind of right before Christmas, and it's just a nice something to participate in. And then just thinking of all the multicultural things, Ethiopian Christmas was the 7th, and since my daughter-in-law is Ethiopian, we went over there and had Ethiopian Christmas and food, and it was wonderful. So that's something that we think about when now we have Christmas, and then we have Ethiopian Christmas, and then New Year's is in September, I believe. So we've got some extra holidays that we celebrate. But that's all I've got for now.
So, thank you for sharing. We'll go to Secretary Manoa.
Don't really have anything other than I'm looking forward to the staff appreciation dinner tomorrow night, and applauding those that have so steadfastly supported our district for so long, and those that are new as well. But yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Mr. Chillers.
Same, no announcements from me other than looking forward to the staff appreciation event.
And it'll come to me as the final word. So first off, happy solar new year. If I haven't said it to you already. Just also let you know, lunar new year actually is early this year, it'll be end of this month. So that'll be on January 29th. So happy lunar new year as well too. Looking forward to the planning retreat. I think we'll have a great conversations. Also looking forward to the staff appreciation dinner, which I wasn't sure if you wanted me to say anything during that or not. The staff appreciation dinner.
No, well, it's actually technically for last year, so
Okay.
Sandy Vincent is,
Okay.
yeah, so,
the-
because it's for
oh, then you're
2023.
back.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Did you know that?
Usually,
Well, yeah, I signed off.
Oh.
she signed all the certificates, so,
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
So I did that.
but you get next year, so,
I get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough, fair enough. The other thing is, so I'm working with Michelle, as we have a sort of a year-long agenda scheduled to map out the priorities. So I'm gonna encourage all of the staff, especially the department heads, program managers, heads of whatever it may be, to work with Michelle to really keep the board in the loop throughout the year. Cause we wanna make sure that there's a, the entire agenda is filled out. So we have a robust discussion in and around those. And so, because we have this sort of year long, I encourage staff to work with Michelle to kind of keep that full, and up to date. And also encourage the board members as well to reach out, if you have ideas or thoughts, so that we can kind of fill that out through the entire year. I'm gonna end today, since today's a day of remembrance for our 39th president, Jimmy Carter. I'm gonna end with one of his quotes. And the quote starts with my faith, but I will take that as any sort of belief or cultural system that you have. And so even though that's his particular quote, I'm just gonna put out there that's for any sort of cultural belief system. So he said, my faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have to try to make a difference. And I think that's appropriate for our year coming forward in 2025. So I will end this meeting at 7:44 p.m.
Yes, they did.
Nice.
That was a nice service. It's great.
Did you watch the service then? Yeah.
Michelle, are you collecting for you?
I am.
It almost seems
Is
like
it done
in many ways, you've done more. During